Let's face it, life is not easy. It can be beautiful, yet challenging. There are too many uncertainties that come from it, from large socioeconomic issues like recessions to more personal problems like not making enough. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged and just think so negatively about everything. But as the great Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, although we cannot command what happens around us, we can always dictate how we choose to respond. This is why you need to adopt a psychological technique known as cognitive appraisal, where you learn to challenge negative thoughts and beliefs, contributing to the feelings of demotivation, overwhelm, and anxiety, and instead focus on the opportunities that the situation presents. But before we go deeper into cognitive appraisal and how you can go about adapting it, make sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video so we can continue to feed you nuggets of information on brain and behavior. So cognitive appraisal is a cognitive behavioral technique used to manage and regulate emotions. It involves changing the way an individual thinks about a situation to alter their emotional response. In other words, it's a matter of changing perspective. The goal of cognitive appraisal is to help you manage negative emotions and promote positive ones. Plenty of research has shown that cognitive appraisal is quite effective in emotional regulation. From therapy to workplace optimization, cognitive appraisal can be taught and practiced. Perspective, after all, is not hereditary. For example, in one study, they looked at the association between perceived stress and anxiety symptoms of people isolated during the pandemic. They found that with emotional regulation strategies like cognitive appraisal, they were able to reduce such symptoms of anxiety and depression in participants who practiced it. Another study showed how cognitive appraisal was closely associated with boosting psychological well-being over time. The results of the study also demonstrated that reappraisal was effective at decreasing negative emotions and increasing positive emotions when subjects were presented with an emotional stimulus. As mentioned earlier, cognitive appraisal is a skill that can be learned, but like any skill, it needs to be practiced over time. Managing and regulating emotions is something that we need to actively do instead of being reactive to every situation. Some of the ways we can try to get started is to, number one, identify the situation. As easy as it might seem, whenever we are feeling moments of stress, anxiety, or high-intensity emotions, instead of reacting to what is going on aimlessly, mindlessly, try to think to yourself, what is causing this emotional response? Why am I feeling triggered in this way? It is important to be specific and clear about the situation at hand. Secondly, evaluate the situation and your emotions in that moment. Once the situation is identified, try to evaluate all the associated emotions that came along with it. If you're feeling worn out after doom scrolling for several minutes, process what you just did and how you're feeling in that moment. Don't forget about it. Look deep into that emotional response and the reasons for why you're feeling the way you do. Is it because you feel unproductive? If so, why does this sense of unproductiveness make you feel anxious? Is it because you have a specific goal you'd prefer to be pursuing instead? Once you've identified and evaluated everything, reframe the situation. Whether you're just a negative realist or simply trying to attempt to mitigate all negativity from your mind, try to insert positive interpretations for every situation. Reframe how you think about a given situation by changing the way you think about it. As cliche as it may sound, focus on the positives, attempting to challenge the negatives. With every negative thought that enters your mind, play devil's advocate, try to find the positive side of the story. Also learn to start off small. Nothing can ever be achieved by starting off too big all at once. Start off with low-stress situations before applying, attempting to be more aware in moments where you feel slightly irritated or slightly bothered. Once you've learned to do that, apply to more challenging situations. Additionally, becoming more conscious of low-level situations can actually be trickier for some people, as high-level intensity emotional moments are much more evident and clear. And then also learn to talk to yourself positively. Instead of assuming that you're a creature governed by your emotions, use positive self-talk to support the cognitive appraisal process. When you are trying to manage your emotions, it's important to remind yourself out loud that you are capable of changing the way you think about a situation. Research shows that positive self-talk does help to improve self-esteem, manage stress, and improve mental well-being. So one of the challenges of practicing cognitive appraisal While cognitive appraisal can be a powerful tool for managing stress and improving emotional well-being, there are some challenges. One of them is learning to identify the negative. It might take some time to become aware of our negative thoughts and begin to challenge them, especially if they're automatic or habitual. Before we can learn to reframe the mind, we need to be more consciously aware of the moments, thoughts, and triggers that come to us. Then there's a matter of consistency. Even if we learn to identify and challenge these negative thoughts, without consistency, it won't work. Like anything in life, you need consistency to get better. Perhaps we succeed in changing our perspective for smaller, low-intensity emotions, but when something bigger explodes, we might fall right back into old habits. To see lasting effects, it's important to practice regularly and make cognitive appraisal a habit. Then there's also the resistance to change. Changing deeply ingrained thought patterns and beliefs can be difficult. These thoughts, after all, have been programmed into us, maybe since a young age. It is never easy to adopt new ways of thinking, as patterns of thought, after all, are largely hidden and seemingly unconscious. By learning to do cognitive appraisal, you can become someone who is more resilient to challenges and stressors. At the end, stress is always something that will enter our lives no matter who we are, where we are, and how we are. Whether you are a millionaire or someone down in the dumps financially, there are always ways to be stressed out. So if negativity will inevitably exist, regardless of what we do or who we are, wouldn't it be best to learn to manage and adapt a mindset that knows how to handle this? The thoughts we think can have a significant influence on the way we feel and behave, and ultimately live our lives. If we reframe negative thoughts into positive ones, our emotional state can change and we can become more capable at coping with the situation at hand instead of being plagued and bothered by it. Reframing thoughts helps you see things from a different perspective and gives you the flexibility to find new solutions. We build resilience and, as a byproduct, improve our mental health. Life, in the end, is full of challenges and setbacks, as we mentioned at the beginning of this video. But by reframing how we think about them, we can learn to see these challenges less as detriments and more as opportunities to grow. So if you like this video, make sure to watch the video on the left about attentional training, and also subscribe to this channel so we can continue to help you mine the golden mind.